Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our monthly All In for Kansas Kids Strengthening Early Childhood in Kansas Systems Building webinar for this Wednesday, March 11th, 2026. My name is Julia Gruss. I am a research project coordinator with KU's Center for Public Partnerships and Research, and I will be facilitating today. I have my colleague Brianna Houston here with me as well, and she will be making sure any relevant links are placed into the chat and will also be monitoring the chat for any questions that you might have. So as this presentation is going on, if you do have questions, feel free to put those in the chat. And at the end of that slide, we will make sure to interject and ask those questions for you to get them answered. As always, this webinar series is held on the second Wednesday of the month at noon. You can receive early childhood systems updates weekly if you go to the Children's Cabinet website at www.kschildrenscabinet.gov to receive our All In for Kansas Kids e-newsletter that goes out weekly, typically on Monday, sometimes Tuesday, depending on how busy the week is, but stay up to date by signing up for that newsletter. Today, we have a wonderful presentation from our Kansas home visiting team. They've got several people here to speak to us, and it's going to be a really great presentation. And then after that, we have just a quick early childhood systems update, a couple of those for you, and then we will send you on your way. But so without further ado, I want to introduce Lisa Williams, who is going to get us started with this panel presentation from our home visiting.
Thank you, Julia. My colleagues and I are so excited to be here today to talk with you about home visiting in Kansas and the role that it plays in supporting families with young children. So as Julia mentioned, I'm Lisa Williams, and I'm with the State Department of Education. And I have the privilege of working every day with home visiting programs and professionals across the state. So in Kansas, more than 10,000 families invite a home visitor into their home each year. That adds up to nearly 116,000 visits annually. And these visits aren't about checking boxes. They're about encouragement, ideas, and real support for families. Through simple moments like reading together, singing together, playing, sharing resources, and celebrating new milestones, home visiting helps families build the strong foundation that their children need to grow and thrive. So today we want to give you a closer look at what that looks like in Kansas. We'll begin with a panel discussion about what home visiting is and how it supports families across your communities. You'll hear from my colleagues who work closely with home visiting programs and the professionals who support families every day. We'll also have the opportunity to hear directly from a family, which I'm really excited about, and I think you'll really enjoy this part of that part of the panel. And finally, we're going to share information about an emerging program and approach in Kansas called Supporting Care Providers, which is just another way that home visiting expands the work to help even more children thrive. So next slide, Julia. So let's look at Kansas home visiting and what it is. Uh, let's be honest. Being a parent comes with many questions. I was in a meeting the other day, and a dad was talking about their family's experience with home visiting. And he started out by saying, "We left the hospital with a new baby and quickly realized that said baby did not come with a manual." And I'm sure that hits home. It made us laugh, but I'm sure that hits home for many of us. Home visiting is just one part of the Kansas early childhood system. It connects families with a caring and highly trained parent educator who meets with them regularly to talk about their child's development. They share fun learning activities and they share resources back and forth. Visits are specifically built around what matters most to the family. Through a variety of activities, home visiting helps parents and caregivers focus on brain development, early learning, literacy, child and family safety and well-being, the importance of play, resources, and there is a lot of celebrating that happens as families and children meet milestones and goals. So, in a nutshell, we always say that home visiting supports parents to feel empowered and confident that they are their child's first and most important teacher. So, next slide, please. Let's take a quick aside and just talk about brain development. I feel really confident that this group knows the importance of nurturing brain development in the early years, but touching on the research certainly lays a solid groundwork for the importance of early childhood programming and services such as home visiting. So the brain is surely remarkable. 90% of the brain develops before we are the age of 5. During this formative window, things around us, such as our environment, our interactions, our relationships, and our experience, shape how our brain develops. This is an opportunity that we don't want to miss with families and children in Kansas. Our early years and the brain's development lay the foundation for lifelong learning, emotional well-being, and social connections. So now back to home visiting. Next slide. Home visiting throughout the state and within your communities may look a little bit different. When we're thinking about the benefits of home visiting, we can focus on the differences, but generally speaking, the benefits are well researched and clear. Home visitors support families to know and understand how to best support their children. In the short term, this means healthier babies, increased early identification of delays and referral for services, increased parent knowledge of age-appropriate development, and improved family functioning. That's the short term. In the midterm, the benefits include increased school readiness, increased parental involvement in a child's care and education, and reduced rates of child abuse and neglect. In the long term, home visiting supports lifelong family growth, resilience, engagement, and well-being. Strong families equal strong and thriving communities. Let's go on. Yeah, the landscape. So let's look a little bit at the landscape in Kansas, and then I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues. So there are a variety of options in Kansas for home visiting. That includes short and long-term programs. Short-term programs generally are called MCH, Maternal Child Health, or Universal Home Visiting. And those are typically around 3 visits, really just to assess how a family is doing and what their needs may be or their desires may be. And then if they should connect to or want to connect to a longer term program. A longer term program can really last with working with a family anywhere from 1 to 5 years, where the parent educator meets with the family monthly or more often, depending on the family's goals. Like I said, age ranges for participation can vary. They can be anywhere from prenatal to kindergarten entry. Some programs in Kansas may or may not have eligibility requirements for the family to join the program. Visit frequency may vary and activities may look a little bit different. But in Kansas, we're really lucky to have great support for home visiting as part of the early childhood system. And that support is continuing to grow. That's exciting. So, some Kansas home visiting program names that you may be familiar with are Early Head Start, Healthy Families America, Nurse Family Partnerships, and Parents as Teachers. That's kind of what the landscape looks like in Kansas. Another part of the landscape that's important is the State Home Visiting Leadership Team. This team is made up of members from state agencies and associations that focus specifically on home visiting. And that includes expansion of the services, the workforce, which is vital, and coordination among programs. We'll talk more about that later in our panel presentation and how to connect with the program. That's enough from me for now. I want to turn it over to my panel members. So to get that really close up magnifying glass view of home visiting, I recruited some of my colleagues to help me. They're going to talk specifically about what home visiting looks like and feels like for a family. Both have experience as home visitors, and they're currently program supervisors for two of our programs in Kansas. Actually, Julia, you can go to the next slide. Michelle McAllister is with the Mays Parents as Teachers program, and Madison Thompson is with the Garden City Parents as Teachers program. I'm going to turn it over to Michelle and Madison. Michelle first. Michelle, I'd love for you to do a little bit more about yourself and what brought you to home visiting.
Absolutely. So I had my firstborn when 22 years ago, and I was a current teacher up in the Kansas City metro area. And when I was in the hospital, I received a flyer about parents as teachers, and my sister told me I had to enroll. So I did, because I was a good second born, did what my older sister told me to do, and it changed the trajectory of my life. When I started receiving home visits, I knew that that's what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I wanted to impact families just like I was impacted. So from there, we moved down in the Wichita area, and I got a job as a parent educator for the Mays Parents as Teachers about 20 years ago. And now I've been the coordinator for about 5 years. So I'm going to share a little bit about what happens during a home visit. So Julia, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. I'm going to talk a little bit about literacy and family goals. And the first one I'm going to talk about is literacy. And home visiting is built on a partnership between the family and the educator. Together, they observe the child, and they celebrate progress and talk about what comes next in development. Conversations about developmental milestones, literacy, and family goals happen naturally through this shared focus on the child. It's not a checklist. I'd like to kind of give you a small picture of what that might look like. Literacy, of course, happens when they share a book or sing a song, but it also happens just in everyday interaction between a parent and child. For example, during a home visit, a parent educator might sit with a parent and child while they're looking at a book together. And the educator might whisper to the parent, I know she's pointing to the dog on the page. Try asking her what sound the dog makes and see what she says. So the parent tries it, and the child might bark or laugh, and the educator might say, oh, that's perfect. When you talk about pictures and let her respond, you're building vocabulary and helping her connect words to what she sees. So you're really educating the parent. The educator also might suggest simple strategies that the parent can use during the week, like talking about pictures in books, labeling objects in their daily routines, or letting the child turn the pages of the book. Another thing that happens during a home visit is developmental milestones. They discuss those. It's not presented as a checklist or a test at all for the kiddo. Instead, the parent educator observes the child during everyday play and talks about what the parent is seeing and what the kid is doing. For example, if an educator is visiting a family and they have a 2-year-old, the parent educator might say, "I noticed when you asked him where the dog was, he pointed right to it." Gosh, that shows he understands the words that you're using. And they might extend it and say, around this age, we often start hearing kids say 2 words together, like more milk or daddy home. Have you noticed him doing that? If the parent says they're mostly using single words, the educator might respond and say, well, gosh, that's a great foundation. How can we encourage 2-word phrases during your daily routines? So together, they might make a simple plan, modeling 2-word phrases during meals, playtime, or reading books. Now, sometimes that skill may be developing a little more slowly. So the parent and the educator together, they monitor it and they come up with a plan and bring activities to support it or find activities in the home to support it. And they revisit the conversation at the next visit. The goal is always a partnership between the family and the parent, supporting development within everyday family routines. And the last thing I want to talk about during a visit, another cornerstone is setting goals with families that are meaningful to them. I wanted to share something that happened when we were in Parents as Teachers 22 years ago, and I still remember it vividly. My daughter was 9 months old, and I don't know what started the conversation, but our educator said to my husband and I, well, if you think about what you want Cassie to be like when she's 18 or 19 years old, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? And my husband said that she's independent, which shocked me because at that point she was dependent on us for everything. And I said that I wanted her to be happy and healthy. So over the course of our visits with our educator, when we were discussing potty training or sleeping through the night or discipline, she would often bring that up and say, okay, so your goals for her are to be independent and healthy and happy. So knowing that, how do you want to proceed? So that was brought up, I don't know, maybe a dozen times during our visits. And it's still, as we raised her, I would still hear that voice in the back of my head saying, okay, we want her to be independent. How are we going to proceed with dating? How are we going to proceed with middle school? And it had a tremendous lasting effect. And I'm happy to say she's 22 and very independent. I still need to get her off the payroll, but she's very independent. And goals don't always look like that at a home visit, but a lot of times they're definitely more short term. An educator might ask a family, as you think about the next few months, what would you really like to focus on for your child or your family? Sometimes the goal is to have more family time. Sometimes the goal is for a child to gain more words. Many times we hear parents in this day and age say, I really want to start reading more. We're just too busy at the end of the day. So the educator might respond and say, oh, that's a great goal. What do you think that would look like to start small? Maybe start reading one night together or setting books in the living room. Together, they talk through realistic steps that they take for the next 2 weeks, next month, until the next visit. At the next visit, the educator will check in and say, last time you mentioned reading books together or reading more, how is it going? This allows the parent educator to celebrate those successes and problem solve strategies when there are challenges, because there are a lot of those, and continues to support the family in reaching their goals. All right, Julia, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. I want to talk a little bit about attachment and bonding. And that's a key thing that happens during home visits, and it happens through everyday interactions between the parent and the child. And it's really the educator's goal just to notice those moments and reflect them back to the parent so they can see how important their connection is with their children's development. For example, a baby might become upset or frustrated and immediately look at their parent for comfort. So the educator points out, oh, did you notice how she looked right at you when she got frustrated? She knows you help her feel safe. With an older toddler or preschool, it might look like he brings his mom a toy or a puzzle piece when he wants the parent to help him. So the educator might say, oh, I noticed when he couldn't get that puzzle piece in, he came right to you and you helped him stay calm and try again. Now, things aren't always real smooth at a home visit, and sometimes we see moments when kids become dysregulated during a visit. For example, a toddler may become frustrated when his block tower falls over and he begins to cry, or maybe his brother knocked it over. The educator might gently coach the parent by saying, you could really get down on his level and let him know that you see he's upset. So the parent does that and responds by saying, oh, this is so frustrating when your brother knocked over that tower, wasn't it? While offering comfort. So the educator can then reflect back and say, when you helped him, that named the feeling and helped him stay calm. You helped him calm his body again. So this will just encourage the parent behavior later on when the educator is no longer there. So by highlighting these everyday moments, educators can help parents see how their responsive relationship supports healthy brain development, reduces stress for their kiddos, and helps children learn to regulate emotions and build connections with others. Now, some home visiting programs in the state of Kansas also support parent-child interactions through group activities to strengthen parent-child bond and connecting them with other families. And that may look different at every Parents as Teachers or another home visiting organization, but I just want to paint a little picture for you. So imagine you walk into a room where families are welcomed and they're relaxed. Parents are talking with each other while the children explore and play learning materials. There might be a slide. I'm sure there's a little grocery store kitchen, a dollhouse. Throughout the time together, there are moments for active movement, play, conversation. Parent educators share practical tips in real time, like strategies to help a child who is dysregulated or ways to make transition, like when it's time to clean up. That's always a tough one. The group might end with a familiar song and the children clap and move and laugh together while parents join in beside them. A short literacy activity follows, maybe reading a story, singing a rhyming song, or playing with letters and sounds, showing families how easy it is to support learning at home. So a group activity is more than just the activity. It's a space where learning, support, and community happen together. Parents and kids get used to being in a school setting. So Julia, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. And Madison Thompson from Garden City, I think she's going to talk a little bit about parent-child interaction.
I am. I'm very excited to share today. Like Michelle and Lisa said, my name's Madison Thompson. I live and work and was born here in Garden City. I get to have the family with me, and so you might hear some playing in the background, but know that you'll get to see the cute face behind the playing soon. So I've been passionate about education ever since I myself was in early childhood. I got that first star on a preschool paper and I was hooked. And so that led me on a journey to become the first person in my family to ever go to and attend college. So it has become my lifelong passion to just help other people feel passionate about education. So with me today, you can see one of the home visitors, Sonia. You're going to get to hear a little bit from her in a moment, as well as one of the moms in our program, Annalise. Something we really believe in as home visitors is that we should always be strengths-based. Parenting in a digital age can be really tricky. It can make you feel like you are really flawed. Um, so within home visiting, we strive to bring strengths-based education into the homes. The relationship between home visitor and family is really special because you're bringing education into the home. When you think about it, all other educational settings take place where the educator created the space. So the first time you drop off your precious 5-year-old at kindergarten, they're walking into a classroom that a teacher has designed. But when you're meeting with a home visitor, you are opening up your home and showing that person your world. And your most prized possessions, your children. And so that creates a very intimate bond between home visitors and the families that they serve. This gives us that firsthand knowledge to help families find their strengths. We work to help with observations and formal screenings, such as hearing, vision screening, ASQs, SEs, Piccolos, KIPS, you name it, someone in Kansas is doing that screener. We look for ways to leverage strengths within a family because we really believe that parents are a child's first and best teacher. Research shows that children are learning about themselves even and their families even in the womb. So when babies are born, they're born ready to learn. When a child is born, they recognize the voices of those who are around them most often. Typically, that is the person who carried them and other people in the home. They are also born ready to recognize the home language. So they are primed and ready and excited to learn. So as home visitors, we strive to make language connections in a variety of ways. In early childhood, children are learning language, but once they cross over into the concrete operational stages, they have to use language to learn. So, what is happening in that 0 to 5 range is so important. In infancy, home visitors often encourage parents to narrate their day, but that can feel really silly. To help us see that language connections are powerful, we can look for a model called serve and return. When you hear serve and return, maybe that makes you think of pickleball or of tennis, but it should be thought of more as the game keep it up. The goal isn't to make a point, it's to keep it going. Many of us, because we're in the early childhood world, have seen the show Bluey. I know I have. And Bluey has given new life to the classic game Keep It Up, or as Bluey and Bingo would call it, Keepy Uppy. So you want to keep that balloon going as high and often as possible. And if it's dropped, you just pick it right back up and start over. No score is kept. No game is lost. You just keep going. That's what it's like in a home visit. Let's imagine working with a family with an 8-month-old. The parent would be coached to talk to their child. They would be encouraged for ways to look that the baby is interacting. So, do you see their face move when you're talking? Do they make a coo sound? Are they smiling? Do their eyes follow you? Those are the very beginning aspects of a serve and return. As a child gets older, you can serve and return in different ways. And the literacy that Michelle talked about, and the resource connections, different activities that have been a big hit with some of our home visitors is cooking. Recently, we've been taking out funfetti cake mixes and doing that with children of all ages. So they are looking for that serve and return, even if it's just a simple narration to children who are still pre-verbal, or asking the students, the children, can you mix it? What does that feel like? Is it hard? And really teaching the parents how to think in those questions and keep that conversation flowing. All right, we're ready for that. Next slide. All right. So here in Kansas, we are very fortunate to have a lot of community supports. We have some universal community supports, such as 1-800-CHILDREN and the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. We also are very fortunate to have KSU Extension offices in every county in Kansas to support us with resource connections as well. These resources help families connect to success. Sometimes families have more unique needs, though, and that can only be met within their communities. You don't know what you don't know until you need it. So when my child was going through home visiting, I was a supervisor, but my daughter was in Parents as Teachers in Garden City, and she was diagnosed with early onset type 1 diabetes. And so all of the things I thought I knew about resources in our community just flooded out with the reality of what my new situation was. So it was so nice to have a home visitor come besides me and point out different resources that I could immediately tap into to support my family on this journey. Her parent educator supplied us with resources and next steps because home visitors are often experts in community supports. This is because home visitors create strong community bonds through their involvement in advisory boards, community coalitions, and partnerships with public schools. I like to think of us as a resource web. So you can come to a home visitor and then be surprised how far out those resources can connect you within your community and state. We use these to help build a network of care that meets not only the basic needs of families, but also connect them with different services in the community and other families. We value family strengths and we want to uplift every family when it comes to home visiting. And so therefore we provide some universal resources, and Michelle touched on that with screenings, but we also help identify food banks and other resources for food insecurity. You never know if you're going to need those resources. We also connect screeners to help identify and support families with intimate partner violence knowledge and resources within the community. Again, we hope they never need it, but it can come in handy if they do. Likewise, home visitors conduct universal screenings and connect families to resources as needed through the screeners we talked about. I like to think of us as kind of like the Oprah Winfrey, you get a car, you get a car, and you get a car. But that's what parent educators and home visitors are doing with resource connections. It feels like we are constantly giving out those resource connections. We are looking for ways to support those families and swoop in with the right resource at the right time. To kind of show you the variety of ways, I want you to imagine some scenarios with me. So imagine with me that you are at a home visit and the parent states that they would like to begin English classes as they assimilate to Garden City, Kansas from their home country. Home visitors are now ready with resources to connect them to an English class and also scholarship information so they can get these resources at little to no cost. Now let's picture we're with a different family. Imagine that your home visitor has just completed a vision screening using the Spot screening tool. They notice that your 1-year-old could follow up with an appointment with an eye doctor. The home visitor is once again ready to provide information about doctors that take your insurance and work well with small children. Again, imagine you're in a different home. Imagine that you've been stuck inside all winter. That's not hard to do with Kansas weather, right? We can imagine being stuck inside all winter. At the home visit, you mentioned to your home visitor that your 3-year-old loves to dance. You're ready to get out of the house and would maybe be interested in joining a dance class. You guessed it, your home visitor is ready again with a resource connection. Home visitors have a special place within their community and within the lives of families in the early childhood community, because those of us who have been in this world know that it can be a very isolating time. When you're focused on raising a small human, it can be hard to know how to tap into all of the resources possible. Having a home visitor on your side to champion, support you, and then resource you when needed can be a really life-changing experience. That's why I'm so excited to get to introduce Annalise, Liam, and their parent educator, Sonia, today. All right, Annalise, you ready? Okay, do you want to grab Liam? Okay, so now for the cutest part of our presentation. Liam, Annalise, and Sonia will be joining us. Annalise and Liam joined our program over 3 years ago. It's hard to believe, but he wasn't quite yet in preschool. Hi. Annalise, I want to ask you today, what was it like to join parents as teachers?
At the beginning, it was I was nervous because I did not know what to expect. But my worries about Liam transitioning from a wrestle child was always at home all the time and going to the pre-K. Sonia helped me a lot with it. So my worries was like suddenly just went away.
That's wonderful.
So she helped me a lot in transition.
Yes. Sonia, I remember when you first met Liam It felt like you just fell in love right away.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like to begin serving Annalise and Liam?
Yeah, well, I met them at the group connection here at the Garfield, and I asked them if they want to join the parents station, and they say yes. So I'm very blessed to help them and serve to their families.
Yes. So as you heard, we helped, one of the goals they set was to transition Liam from Part C, home visiting, to the early childhood setting. And so that was a really big goal. And it took a lot of warm handoffs and small steps. At the time, my dad, who is a retired vet, was working at the preschool and he became Liam's one-on-one para. So we had a strong, warm handoff there. But Sonia also helped attend educational support meetings.
Yes.
Girls, do you kind of remember what it was like to walk through that process of Liam coming to school a little bit and then a little bit more?
Yeah, he started with 2 days, no? 2 days a week.
2 days a week,
Yeah.
and then transition to
Then
3 days
and
a
then
week
go
for-
to the full week.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Annalise, you got to start coming to school too, didn't you?
Yes.
Yes. So Annalise now works here at Garfield with us and has become one of our colleagues through this process. And so it has definitely been a strengths-based journey.
Yeah.
When we met Annalise, she was already an amazing champion for Liam. And so it was really,
When you also helped me with that.
oh, she
I was-
did.
Yes, because I was worried like what will happen to Liam, especially with his G2. Liam is a G2 and we have to feed him. So Sonia encourages me since I have a teaching degree in the Philippines before, why not go and help? So that's why I tried to get into this.
Yes. So as you can see, like Liam's going to kindergarten and it'll feel like kind of a loss in our little lives, not visiting him anymore. But we have definitely built that strong home visitor client connection.
Yes.
Yeah.
Liam, anything you want to say?
Say hi.
And
See?
we love the program so much because you guys give us a lot of information and encourages us to work with a goal and stuff. So
That's
I
awesome.
love Sonia also. She's part of the family.
Thank you.
Sonia, is there anything you want to share about your journey with the family?
I just love to work with families and especially with Liam. It's very fun to go with them, and the hour goes so fast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's
Yes.
like an hour is.
Yeah.
That's we love.
Yes, I always say it's the fastest hour of your day
It is.
is when you're on a home
Yeah,
visit.
it is.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. It
thank
was
you.
so
Thank
special
you.
for you to get to join us.
Sure.
I'll let you go back to your real life.
Okay.
Thank you. As you can tell, home visiting creates special bonds that set families and children up for a lifetime of success. Lisa, I'll turn it back over to you.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Annalise and Liam, and Sonia. What an amazing journey, and we're happy and proud for you to get Liam ready for kindergarten. So, Madison, thank you for sharing that lovely family with us. Yeah. So now I'm going to turn it over to our colleague Becky Stewart. Becky is the program director for an emerging type of home visiting in the state of Kansas called Supporting Care Providers of Kansas. Becky, can I turn it over to you and feel welcome to introduce yourself and say a little more?
Sure. Thank you, Lisa. Really exciting to follow Michelle and Madison. It felt like they were describing our program as well. We are just working with a different group, working with family, friend, and neighbor providers and licensed exempt providers. So it was really exciting to hear the journey of home visiting. So when Lisa had asked me yesterday to share a fun fact for today, I was trying to think of what was really relevant in my world, and I thought about the years that I have been in family childcare. And between my mother, my sister, and myself, we have a combined 120 years of licensed family childcare, along with several years of family, friend, and neighbor care with our own grandchildren. And so you can see this work has been deeply personal and passionate for me. So we'll want to share a little bit about our Supporting Care Providers of Kansas program. And we have the unique opportunity to extend specialized home visiting services to family, friend, and neighbor and licensed exempt providers. And our mission is to support these providers in creating safe, stimulating environments that ensure every child in their care is prepared for school and lifelong development. So both family, friend, and neighbor and licensed exempt providers are essential parts of the early child care and education ecosystem. So family, friend, and neighbor providers are existing trusted relationships with the child. And these are grandparents, aunts, uncles, or older siblings and trusted friends who step in to help. And then our licensed exempt providers are, as defined by our House Bill 2045, states the Secretary shall update rules and regulations to not require licensure for an individual who provides care for less than 35 hours unless otherwise increased by the Secretary to 4 or fewer children, not more than 2 of whom may be infants, who are not related to the individuals by blood, marriage, or legal adoption, nor to individuals who provide care for children in such child's own home or when care is arranged between friends and neighbors on an irregular basis. So we can go on to the next slide. So we have our personalized services, our in-home supports that every provider in our program receives customized visits for a minimum of 2 years. And depending on their specific needs, these visits occur bi-weekly or monthly. And at the heart of these visits, we use the parents as teachers, supporting care providers through personal visits curriculum. And this is a research-based framework that focuses on 4 pillars. We have partnering with providers, that's building self-awareness, self-care, and goal setting, and environments and interactions, focusing on brain development, scaffolding skills, and nurturing behaviors. The care routines address essentials like safe sleep, nutrition, and attachment. And family engagement is helping providers navigate family systems, boundaries, and mutual respect. And in addition to providing these, the Parents as Teachers curriculum, we also support providers in monitoring the children's development through the training on ASQ3 and ASQ SE2 screenings, and we support them through the process, follow up on the activities or community referrals for the children in their care that identify with a delay or a concern. In addition to the curriculum, we ensure that the care environment is both safe and enriching. We provide essential safety items like outlet covers, door locks, safe sleep training, and if needed, we provide a pack and play for a safe place for infants to sleep. And then with the curriculum, we provide children's books and learning materials for all of the provider-child interaction activities. And finally, to ensure our guidance is truly personalized and not one size fits all, we utilize a professional suite of evidence-based tools we look at. We use the HOPE for positive childhood experiences, the PICCOLO to celebrate provider-child interactions, the PFS2 to strengthen protective factors, and the PSOC to build the provider's own sense of efficacy and confidence. And when utilizing these tools, then we're able to connect providers with a specific community resources like healthcare or social services, as well as state resources like 1-800-CHILDREN or the Dolly Parton Imagination Library that will best support them and the children and families in their care. We can go to the next slide. So our current and our future of supporting care providers of Kansas, we are looking at currently in Johnson and Wyandotte counties, and our services are fully available in both English and Spanish. Should the opportunity arise to support a provider who speaks another language, we are prepared to adapt our services to ensure they receive high-quality support. And then looking at our goal for expansion, In the coming years, the Supporting Care Providers Advisory Council is currently guiding our team through a 3-year sustainability plan. This plan will be finalized by the end of this program year, and it includes a strategic expansion into additional Kansas counties during the 2027 through 2029 program years. And while this data and expansion plans are vital, the true heart of this program is the impact it has on the individual providers and the children in their care. And to share perspective on what supporting care provider looks like in action, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Maria Rios, to share her experience from the field.
Can everybody hear me? Thank you, because I can't hear myself, and that's lovely. I'm like, man, I could talk forever, but I was told no today. But anyways, my name is Maria Rios, and I work closely with the community, with our family, friend, and neighbor. I have the privilege, I say privilege because it's always a privilege when you see growth in any family, in any child that you work with, that we get to see the impact that it does on our community with our grandparents. Most of our caseload that we have are our grandparents or our family related that trust their friends to take care of their kiddos. My work focuses on building relationships with the provider and offering them resources, guidance, and encourage them to feel confident and supported in what they're doing their role. Um, what makes this work so rewarding is seeing the grandparents that never had a privilege of having a book being able to share a book with a grandchild, being able to gain confidence and recognizing that the work that they're doing is more than just caring or babysitting, that they're also giving their children that opportunity to learn speech and to focus on their language and their developmental skills. What is it that they're doing? These small moments often lead to meaningful changes in both the provider and the child. But our providers also strengthen by providing our services, we also strengthen the families and the communities. We feel that they are vital to what they're doing, but we also want them to understand what they're doing. I was also asked to share a testimonial from one of our providers, and just yesterday I did a visit with our little guy. He's taking speech, refuses to practice when he's at home with the aunt, doesn't want to practice. So yesterday I was there. He's like, I'm gonna go get Rocky. I'm thinking, who's Rocky? And he said, my dog. I'm like, oh my, Rocky's coming into the visit. But Rocky ended up being a stuffed animal. He brought his stuffed animal, sat him in front of there, and I'm like, I love it. Great learning opportunity. Now you're going to teach Rocky how to sound words. He turned around and he said, he doesn't speak. And I said, that's perfect because you're going to go over and over your words. So until he does, he's able to understand. And it was amazing to see how well the aunt and the little guy was willing to do what he needed to do to learn. I mean, I could tell you tons of stories, but unfortunately, we're running out of time. But our work is meaningful because we're able to touch the lives of those family, friend, and neighbors that don't get services anywhere else or are not qualified or are able to go somewhere. So it gives us the opportunity to be able to go into the home and leave knowing that they're changing and the kiddos are changing. And we want the kids to be successful. And the only way they're going to be successful is if our family, friend, and neighbors know that they are successful in what they're doing. And that's what we do in a nutshell. We touch lives.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Maria and Becky, about the emerging supporting care providers of Kansas. I think our goal today was to give you all a glimpse of what home visiting looks like in the state. Like I said, you may hear about different programs. We all, generally speaking, have the same goal, and that's to support families and help families and children thrive. So we just want to wrap up today. I want to touch on how you can get in touch with programs in your state. And rest assured, this is something, making this a little bit easier is something that the State Home Visiting Leadership Team is working on. For now, I would say we've got some great resources to contact home visiting programs that are in your community. not all home visiting programs are in every community, but we are lucky enough in Kansas to have a home visiting service available in all counties. So 1-800-Children, you've heard that resource mentioned several times today. Wonderful resource to get lots of different information for parents, or as a parent to help in raising the children. It's also a way that you can find a home visiting program in your community. So I would suggest 1-800-Children as one way. The other way, that the other resource that I want to give you is we have a group in the state that really focus on supporting the providers, the home visiting professionals for Kansas. And we've listed those members on this slide. So if you're interested in finding programs, certainly reach out to any of these home visiting alliance members, and they'll be able to point you in the right direction to find services. Last slide, Julia, is our contact information from the panel members. They're in the order, I put them in the order that we presented in, if that helps you recognize who you might want to contact if you have questions or want additional information. Any of us would be more than willing, like Maria mentioned, we can talk for hours and hours on end about home visiting. So feel free to reach out to any of us. And maybe we have a few minutes today that we would invite you to ask questions, if that's okay with Julia and Brianna.
Absolutely. If anybody has anything, please come off mute, put it in the chat, whatever you need to do.
Please ask us anything.
And write down the emails. So if you don't think of anything now, you can send an email later.
Yeah, let's see here. What's in the chat?
Yes, I do have a question from Kylie McDonald. I'm looking at starting a daycare in our district in the very near future. What additional steps or services would help ensure we are focused on helping our families thrive?
Yeah, daycares are a little bit out of our wheelhouse. I would definitely suggest contacting the child care licensing program with the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. But what I would also suggest, if you're getting started and you're interested in any early childhood in your community, find who to connect with. Each community should have what's called a local coordinating agency. That would be a great place to start. You may also have other early childhood groups or work groups that are just working to build that platform in your community. So make sure you connect with others that are also supporting families and children.
Yes.
Yeah, child care aware. Thank you, Amanda.
Yep, I was going to say that as well. The Child Care Go
Thank you,
Team for
Julia.
Child Care Aware of Kansas is also a great resource as well. And they joined us last month on this webinar. We will share the YouTube link here shortly, so you can always go back and watch last month's webinar presentation, Kylie, if you missed that one. But there was a presentation from the Go team.
I did miss last month, and I'll go back and look at it. And
Yeah.
I'm already working with some of those. We already have a preschool for early childhood preschool for 3-year-olds. We also have a 4-year-old program, and we do have some connections with our county-wide parents as teachers. So we have some of those pieces. I just want to make sure I'm not missing any additional steps as we try to the community I serve does not have a single daycare in our boundary. So it's a high need, but I want to make sure that I'm putting all of those pieces together. And so I didn't know if there was anything else I was missing.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you for
Resources.
doing the work you do because it's obviously very necessary for your area.
Yeah. And
Any other
best wishes.
questions for Lisa and for our home visiting team before we move on? We've just got a couple of early childhood updates for you. No, we got one. Just excellent presentation. Thank you for the work that you do. It is so important. And I will definitely echo that. And I appreciate your time today, everyone on our panel. Hearing from a family is so impactful. I think hearing all of your individual stories, very impactful, and just kind of eliminating any stigma in receiving any of these services. They're here and they're amazing and they definitely can help. So and I will just read a comment in the chat as well to everybody. When possible, it can also be helpful to partner with your local home visiting program. Connecting families to home visiting services can provide an additional layer of support, offering individualized guidance and resources that complement the care and learning happening in childcare. These partnerships help create a stronger network around families and ensure they have access to the support they need. So once again, thank you so much, Lisa. We so appreciate you putting together this presentation for us today. And I will move on to our early childhood systems updates. And I have another colleague of mine joining us, Ashley LaFond, who has been in charge of putting together these care and wellness conferences. And she's going to tell you about the ones coming up this summer.
Hello. Thank you, Julia. Yes, Ashley LaFont here. I'm a research project coordinator at CPPR. And as Julia mentioned, I am coordinating and leading the Care and Wellness conferences again this year. And this year, we'll be in 3 different locations across the state, more in the North and South region, Central regions, and Northeast. So 3 opportunities to attend. I just will call out those dates as you see in the flyer on May 6th in Wichita, Kansas, May 7th in Salina, and June 26th in Olathe for the Northeast region. These events are free. They are not, they usually will be around from like 9 to 4:30. And really, the biggest thing to highlight today for you all is this conference is designed for early childhood professionals, mental health providers, and families to come together around mental health and special healthcare needs. Um, a lot of things that were mentioned today earlier from Lisa and team, a lot of those things. Also, we want to have home visitors there and have representation from that because the biggest part and the biggest goal of this is to create a welcoming third space, if you will, where everyone feels connected and supported in a place that really bridges families and professionals, and centers family-driven connections and equips providers to meet the needs of families they serve. So in this, and for these conferences, there's different ways you can participate. You can participate simply by attending and the conference and the sessions that will be offered while you're there. You can also host a resource table, or you can do both. So I think, I'm not sure. Yeah, in the chat, there's a link to to register for the conference. And in that is if you are interested in having a resource table for your organization, you can just simply say you're interested, and then you'll get a follow-up Qualtrics survey to get your your resource table registered for a specific location. But also, I just ask if you have team members, partners, families that you serve, or families you know with young children 0 to 5, please, we'd greatly appreciate your help spreading the word about the conference. And you can let families know that that do attend, they'll receive a stipend for their time to help compensate for childcare and just life, because we know that it can be hard sometimes to take a moment and for yourself and go do something that you would like to do outside of your work. So If you have any questions at all, this was a very, very brief overview about the conference, but there's going to be some amazing sessions provided, and I'm happy to follow up with anyone that wants more details on that. But they will be led by our partners from Lind, Came, Mindful Minis as well, and possibly more. So there will be, stay tuned for more on that, and takes a few minutes if you're interested to register for the conference.
Thank you so much, Ashley. I've just got a few dates and upcoming meetings, one of which I actually do not have a slide for. But starting last month, there was an infant and early childhood mental health community of practice meeting. This was just started in February. And speaking of mental health, the purpose of the community of practice meetings are bringing together early care and education professionals and mental health professionals to strengthen collaboration, increase shared understanding of infant and early childhood mental health, and support more coordinated efforts for children ages 0 to 5 and their caregivers. So what we are doing is inviting organizations to share brief presentations to highlight their mission and their roles within the early childhood system, infant and early childhood mental health related services and supports that they provide, how families and providers can access or partner with the organizations, and any current gaps, challenges, or emerging needs seen within this work. And I know that Part C was mentioned today through our home visiting presentation, and this month's community of practice is being held on this Friday, so 2 days from today at noon. And Brianna, I believe, has already put the link for that registration in the chat. If you were unaware of these meetings or this is your first time hearing about them, you can register there. But we will have somebody coming to speak about Part C and how that ties into early childhood mental health. So that's a really another great opportunity to come and learn some more on Friday at noon. But also we have the early childhood recommendations panel on Friday, March 28th from 9 to 11:30 a.m. We have the upcoming children's cabinet meeting being held on Friday, April 3rd from 9 to noon. And then our next early childhood systems building webinar on Wednesday, April 8th from noon to 1. And you can find all of these meetings and more on the Children's Cabinet YouTube channel, some of which are live streamed. Others are, the recordings are just put there for you to watch at your convenience. So thank you so much for joining us. Sorry to keep you a little late today, but I think the presentation was important enough to do so. You can stay up to date with us by signing up for that All In for Kansas Kids e-newsletter, subscribing to that Children's Cabinet YouTube channel, and also following and subscribing to the All In for Kansas Kids Facebook page. Thank you again for joining us, and we will see you next month.
Thank you, guys.